I watched a video earlier uh, from a gentleman that was a former police officer, I believe, may even still be, but I just believe he was a former police officer. And he has a YouTube channel. His name is, I believe, Dominic Izzo. And he studies Wing Chun and has been for some period of time. I've watched his videos, his demonstration videos of Wing Chun, and for the most part, the thing that he does is practical. But when I watched this recent video where he talks about Bruce Lee's fighting and what gained Bruce Lee popularity, he talks about his flashiness, his footwork more specifically, basically calling it dancing around or bouncing around. And then he showed a clip from Return of the Dragon with Chuck Norris, and he showed some other martial arts systems, and he made the statement that Bruce Lee, what he was doing was not practical as it relates to fighting. In his film Return of the Dragon, he made a point of that. So you can't do that in a street fight, that your feet have to be firmly planted on the ground, and that he's never ever had a fight where his feet were not planted. And he said Bruce Lee effed it up for all fighters with what he did in the movies, that's not real fighting. He doesn't know anything about Bruce Lee. First of all, let me say this. I don't have an ought against any martial arts practitioner who's a legitimate practitioner of martial arts. And just because anyone studies a martial arts system or style or practices it doesn't mean that you are the real thing. Anybody can copy something. Anyone can be taught something by a legitimate instructor. But it doesn't mean that you are a martial artist, because that's the embodiment, a true martial artist, that is of many elements, not just physical techniques and memorizing, inside gate, outside gate, straight line theory, and movable elbow and things like this in Wing Chun, and the stance or the triangle and so forth. It's more than just that. You, the person, your spirit, your character, should be brought into question as well, and your motives, especially when your motives are trying to disenfranchise the legacy of someone else, or to degrade or demean what they accomplished in their own martial arts journey, Bruce Lee more specifically in this case. I don't have any respect for that, but I do have respect for Izzo and his videos that he's presented here on this platform. I do. Just to get that out of the way. I'm trying to find out how to articulate this, because that rubbed me a certain way, how he just beat up on Bruce Lee, saying basically that he was not a fighter. If you watch the video, you'll see that it's very obvious what he was saying. Now, when I look at Izzo in comparison to Bruce Lee, it makes me think about all of the Wing Chun masters and grandmasters that I've seen since my beginning in the martial arts. I've never seen a fat one grandmaster or master in Wing Chun. Not one. They've all been on the thin side. There should be some credit given to them for that. I know that most Chinese are on the thin side. You look at Bruce Lee's physique throughout his career of training and development. He was probably one of the most muscular and well-built, proportioned Chinese during that era in martial arts films. So when I compare those individuals to Izzo's physique, he has that bar bouncer type of body, lifting heavyweight type of body, very bulky, which is not typical of a Wing Chun practitioner. He's too heavy is what I'm getting at. He's too bulky is what I'm getting at. So I could see him not ascribing to bouncing, if you will, as he termed it, or the footwork kind of thing that Bruce Lee did. But first of all, Bruce Lee had to appeal to an audience that was watching his films too. Bruce Lee's whole life was devoted to real fighting. You got to study the whole man, not just the film. But he was displaying his martial arts on screen. And he was developing on screen and becoming better on screen. He was an actor first, right? And even he himself said, honestly, martial arts to me is expressing one's self. And he expressed himself. He didn't make this up. Martial arts to me is expressing oneself. And he did just that. It doesn't mean that he has to be measured by your barometer, how you do things. Because before there ever was a brother teacher in martial arts, and before there ever was an Izzo in martial arts, there was Bruce Lee. So it's coincidental maybe, and it's ironic maybe, that Izzo is studying the same art that Bruce Lee studied. Hello? So are we saying that Bruce Lee is not credible as a fighter, or was not credible as a fighter, and you studying the same exact system that he studied, even though he studied many? So I disagree, of course, adamantly, vehemently. Bruce Lee was the creme de la creme of fighters during his time. Izzo needs to go back and do some real research, but if he were to see this video that I'm doing right now, he's not going to agree with me, because he has many followers. He's built a name for himself. I might pale to him in comparison in terms of followers that I have versus he is and so forth, but that means jack nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's the value of what you're giving, not the amount of people that's watching what you're giving. Let's make that perfectly plain. So, was Bruce Lee a fighter? Absolutely 100% and beyond a fighter. If he was not worth his weight in gold and who he was on record, then the whole world is wrong. The whole world of martial arts that followed, copied, or mimicked everything that he did during that era, and even to this very day, his name has been in thousands of publications. But his name was in thousands of publications as a guy just dancing around? No. He had a library over 2,000 books on fighting. Don't tell me that this man was just a bouncer on the ground and that what he did was not practical. What in the heck is he studying all of these systems and these arts for? And these compilations of his notes and his manuscripts on fighting, and all of the people who he influenced who still train in his system today, what was all that about if he was not someone well versed in fighting? Why? There's always going to be a Bruce Lee hater, because a lot of people never got the acclaim that he did during that time and even today. And you'll never be on that level that he was on. That includes Izzo. So when you say that that man's not a fighter or was not a fighter, you don't know what you're talking about. Really. You need to go back and maybe you need to start bouncing. Maybe you need to start doing some footwork. Maybe it's because you can't do footwork, and you think that you're going to be in the fight where the guy's going to be right here with you within your element only. It doesn't work that way. And it's funny. He talked about boxing being more realistic, even though it's a sport, of course, as we see it. But in a street fight, a boxer can hold his own. He's a fighter too. It's more than what you say. That's all I have to say. You need to go and do some homework, brother. I don't think you've done martial arts long enough, and I don't think you've studied enough martial arts outside of that which you're more comfortable with. That was it. And that was all.